On the night of February 1, 1959, 9 experienced hikers cut open their tent from the inside and fled into the frozen Siberian wilderness wearing little more than their underwear. They ran barefoot into temperatures of -30 degrees. When search parties found them 3 weeks later, the scene was inexplicable. Some had died from hypothermia, others from massive internal traumas if hit by a car. One was missing her tongue and eyes. Another had traces of radiation on his clothes. What made 9 experienced mountaineers abandon their only shelter and run to their deaths in the middle of the night? This is the Dyatlov Pass Incident, and after 65 years, the truth remains one of history's most disturbing mysteries. In late January 1959, 10 students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out on a winter hiking expedition across the northern Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union. Their goal was to reach a Torten mountain, a journey covering over 200 miles through some of the most remote and dangerous terrain in Russia. This wasn't a casual adventure. All members were experienced hikers and skiers, certified for the highest category of mountaineering difficulty. The expedition was led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, a fifth-year student with extensive hiking experience. His team included 8 men and 2 women, all in their early 20s, all athletic and well-prepared. They documented their journey meticulously. Photographs show the group laughing, skiing, setting up camps. Their journals detailed daily progress, weather conditions, and morale. Everything appeared normal, routine, safe. On January 27th, the group began their trek from the town of Vitsai, the last inhabited settlement before the wilderness. The next day, one member, Yuri Yudin, turned back due to illness. He would be the only survivor. The remaining 9 continued north toward the mountain known in the local Mansi language as Kolitsayakal, Dead Mountain. By February 1st, they had reached the slopes of the mountain. According to their journals and photographs, they decided to set up camp on the mountainside despite deteriorating weather. This was slightly off their planned route, but not unusual for experienced hikers adapting to conditions. That night, they pitched their tent and settled in. The last diary entry was made, the last photographs taken. What happened next would baffle investigators for decades. When the group failed to return by their expected date of February 12th, families grew concerned. But the expedition had been authorized for independent travel, and delays were common in severe winter conditions. It wasn't until February 20th, nearly 3 weeks after the incident, that a search party was finally organized. Led by volunteers and fellow students, the search teams battled brutal conditions to reach the area. On February 26th, they found the tent, but the most disturbing detail was this: Lyudmila Dubinina's tongue, eyes, and part of her facial tissue were missing. The official report noted the tissue was absent, not torn or cut away, simply gone. More mysteries emerged. Some of the clothes worn by the 4 in the ravine had been cut from the bodies of the 2 found by the cedar tree, suggesting those who survived longer had tried to take warm clothing from their deceased companions. This indicated clear, rational thinking even in dire circumstances. Testing on some clothing fragments revealed traces of radioactive contamination far above normal levels. The significance of this has never been explained. Examination of the campfire by the cedar tree showed it had burned for some time, meaning the group had tried to stay warm, but ultimately failed or abandoned the effort. Official conclusions: Soviet authorities launched an official investigation. The case file ran to hundreds of pages. Witness testimonies, medical reports, photographs, and expert analysis filled volumes. After 3 months of investigation, the official conclusion was released in May 1959. The hikers had died due to a compelling natural force that they could not overcome. That was it. No details, no explanation. The case was classified and closed. For decades, the Dyatlov Pass file remained sealed. Families were told to stop asking questions. The area was closed to hikers and skiers for 3 years following the incident. Officially, the Soviet Union wanted the case forgotten, but silence breeds speculation. Over the decades, theories multiplied. The most conventional explanation suggests an avalanche hit the tent at night, causing panic. The hikers cut their way out and fled downhill. Some died from hypothermia trying to return. Others were caught in a secondary snow collapse in the ravine, causing their injuries. But experts noted problems. The slope wasn't steep enough for avalanche. The tent was still partially standing. There was no evidence of avalanche debris. Some scientists proposed that rare meteorological conditions created infrasound low-frequency sound waves that can cause panic, disorientation, and even physical pain in humans. This might explain why the hikers fled in apparent terror from no visible threat. The area was relatively close to military installations. Some theorized secret weapons testing, perhaps rockets, bombs, or biological agents, caused the deaths. The radiation traces and the compelling natural force mentioned in official reports fueled this theory. The Soviet military denied any activity in the region that night. Medical experts noted that severe hypothermia can cause paradoxical undressing. Victims feel hot and remove clothing as they freeze to death. This might explain why they were found in minimal clothing, but it doesn't explain why they left the tent in the first place or the severe internal injuries. Local indigenous Mansi people initially fell under suspicion, but investigators found no evidence of other people at the scene. The Mansi considered the mountain sacred and avoided it. They had no motive and no history of violence against hikers. Adding to the mystery, some of the last photographs from the expedition showed strange orange orbs in the night sky. Were these light phenomena, rocket trails, camera malfunctions? Other hikers in the region that night reported seeing strange lights in the sky. Military personnel at nearby installations also reported unusual aerial phenomena around the same time. What were these lights, and were they connected to the deaths? For 60 years, the Dyatlov Pass incident remained officially unexplained. But in 2019, the Russian government reopened the investigation following pressure from families and persistent public interest. After examining new scientific studies and consulting modern avalanche experts, investigators released their conclusion. A rare type of avalanche called a slab avalanche had hit the tent. The delay between the initial snow accumulation and the eventual collapse explained why it seemed to occur hours after the hikers set up camp. The avalanche didn't fully bury the tent, just damaged it enough to cause panic. The hikers, fearing a larger avalanche might follow, cut their way out and descended to a safe distance. Their plan was likely to wait out the night and return in daylight. But severe hypothermia and disorientation set in faster than expected. The injuries in the ravine were caused when a section of the snowy ledge they stood on collapsed, dropping them several meters and compressing their bodies. The missing tongue and eyes. Natural decomposition accelerated by exposure to running water in the ravine, where the bodies lay for months. The radiation, potentially from gas lanterns or from one hiker who worked in a nuclear facility. Many experts accepted this explanation. Computer simulations showed such an avalanche was possible, though rare. The theory explained most of the physical evidence. But critics noted problems. The tent damage didn't match typical avalanche patterns. Experienced mountaineers would know how to respond to avalanche danger. Fleeing downhill and abandoning all gear seemed irrational. The internal injuries were far more severe than a simple fall would cause. And what about the lights in the sky reported by multiple witnesses? The case, officially closed again in 2020, remains hotly debated. Families of the victims have expressed both acceptance and skepticism of the findings. 65 years after 9 hikers died on a frozen mountainside, the Dyatlov Pass incident continues to captivate investigators, scientists, and true crime enthusiasts around the world. Was it simply a tragic combination of natural forces, avalanche, hypothermia, and panic that killed the group? Or does the evidence suggest something more? The radiation, the lights in the sky, the catastrophic internal injuries, the missing tissue. Each element has a potential rational explanation. But taken together, the case remains deeply unsettling. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect is that we will never know what the hikers experienced in their final hours. What did they see or hear that made them cut through their tent and flee into certain death? What compelling natural force did Soviet investigators reference but never name? The Dyatlov Pass incident serves as a reminder that even in our modern world, there are still unexplained deaths, mysteries that resist neat solutions, and questions that haunt us long after the case files close. 9 experienced hikers went into the mountains, none came back. And on that frozen slope, something happened that we may never fully understand. If you enjoy the videos and you want more, like, comment and subscribe. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most analyzed and debated mysteries in true crime history. What do you think happened? Was it a tragic accident, or something more sinister? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you're obsessed with unsolved mysteries and cases that refuse to make sense, subscribe to the Crime Cult. We investigate the stories that keep you up at night. Thanks for watching. Stay curious. And remember, some mysteries are never meant to be solved.